Can anyone really stop Mo Pleasant? And are the junglers finally returning to their throne? The top two are finally stepping in on this semi-final Leg 1 preview show. Yeah, people, welcome back to JPL Fan, and it is finally time for the semi-finals. We're getting closer and closer to the end game. We will be in Montego Bay this Thursday for the big clash of the top 4 teams. And we will start with Cavalier taking on Arnett. Now, based on how the quarterfinals went, understand how precious it was for the junglers to get that second place spot and avoided other demanding player of the quarterfinals. A lot of people actually don't remember, but Arnett's season actually started way back in July when they had to play in the Caribbean Club Shield, and because of that participation and as well as in the CONCACAF Caribbean Cup, they have racked up near 50 games on their legs. So this additional break was a big lifesaver. Even better, they had some injury knocks like the one to Joel Jones that sees him get extra time to recover, as well as they were able to give their hard-working striker, Warner Brown, some extra days off before he's raring to go. All this rest actually plays in the hand of Arnett based on how the style Xavier Gilbert wants. There are teams that loves to go with you at pace, and they simply hate when the game pace is too slow. Expect them to come out in this game from minute 1 buzzing, and I expect them to try to get early goals as soon as they can. As long as Xavier Gilbert doesn't switch up things again like he did last season playoffs. I'm not an Arnett fan, but even I was absolutely furious when he switched off a 4-4-2 diamond last season and got the team rhythm off in these most crucial games. It will be interesting to see if he has learned anything from that. As for actual personnel, again, I'm not sure what's the state of Joel Jones. He made us keep Dwyer and Wing at the centre-back pairing, which means he would have to now use Ricardo Thomas on one of the full-back positions, either left or right, depending on where he wants Ramon Shepherd to play. But the front three, I think, picks itself. There's no way he's keeping O'Shea Smith after his exploits in last season playoff and the form that he's in, and Warner Brown and Captain Fabian Reed should be the other two men in the attack. So I fully expect them to be explosive out of the gate. As for Cavalier, well, they are the complete opposite to Arnett. I'm quite sure they would have loved the extra rest because at the end of that grueling match against Portmore, they really looked dead on their feet. And I don't see changing with the short turnaround and this long trip out west. Now, this is where Rudolph Speed is going to really earn his coaching badges because I am not quite sure what's the best way to approach this game. We now know that Shaquille Stein is still struggling to get back, especially in time for this game, so I don't think he'll be there. And then we saw Jamal Calvin actually the last game with a knock as well, which means that he may not be available either. And we saw in the 2 legs against Portmore that Cavalier attack really struggled without a focal point. And while I give Speed plaudits for trying the young 17-year-old Dennis in the last game, it was still not very effective. So it's going to be very interesting the lineup choices he decided to go with. He may opt to do the same thing like he did in the first leg and bring back Watson to try to go as high as possible to try to be the beacon up there, or he might opt to just simply keep things as they are, put Busy as the false 9 and bring in Chad James on the right hand side. But based on what is going on in terms of the personnel and the tired legs, I don't expect Cavalier to make this game be an open one like what we have seen when these two face each other all season long. But as I said, you never know when it comes to this coach. Alright, let's move on to the players to watch. I'm going to start with Arnett, and I'm going to start, well, in the goal. Jonathan Wall has stepped in after the unfortunate incident to Roger Williams towards the stretch, and while he is a very capable goalkeeper, my reservations are just like the one I had with Nicholas Clark about him performing at his best on the brightest stage. We saw Clark had a meltdown, so it's interesting to see how the youngster Wall perform on this big stage. I should also mention that Xavier Gilbert could opt for the more experienced Tyrone Williams to step in instead, so it's a wait and see to see exactly who he brings in on Thursday night. The other player I want to focus on is on Marlon Martin. He has had a very decent season so far, being that protector in the middle of the park. He's also the catalyst more wild for their position play and start the plays from deep in midfield, so he will definitely be a pivotal player in this matchup against Cavalier. And of course, we have to end this now by looking at this 21-goal striker, and that's Warner Brown. It's no secret that his confidence is probably at the highest it's ever been, and he has gotten the rest, as I stated earlier, after not playing for the last couple of weeks. So he should be fresh and itching to go to really come out there and get some goals. Now the players to watch on Cavalier, and I will have to start in the middle of the park with Shamar Watson. I didn't exactly like him in that advanced role. While I understand he did it for the team, he looked more comfortable in that second leg, in a position he's more comfortable with, and with I expecting Cavalier to be more on the defensive side of things for this first leg, his play will be absolutely pivotal for them to get a clean sheet. The other key player I need to talk about is, of course, Writers. He was absolutely a ghost in the first two legs, and even his best attribute, which is crossing, wasn't all that great against Portmore. And I know a lot of people were wondering why he still get the start, especially against somebody as dynamic as Carly Avery, but you kind of do see it in that Portmore second leg. He does a lot of work on the defensive side of things as well, so I'll give him credit there. If Calvin is injured, he will need to step up big to try help Atkinson in the attack going forward. Alright, and the last player I have to talk about, of course, is still busy Atkinson. He showed that he's a special player against Portmore, but I still think he can do a little bit more, especially when it comes to being clinical. We see he missed some good chances in that first leg in the quarterfinals, and that's always been the missing part to his game. He still needs that killer touch. And if Cavalier is going to be more on the defensive side in this game, he may only get one chance to leave a mark. But alright, before I wrap up with these two teams, let's look at the season records of their play so far in the season. Of course, they played each other 3 times, and I must admit, all 3 games was a fun, open experience between the two. Cavalier did draw first blood when they got 2-1 in the jungle before they meet up again for a breezy, entertaining 2-2 draw before their last match, which was also a fun and entertaining 2-2 draw. So you could see games normally between these two teams are really close, but Cavalier is still unbeaten in 5 matches, including their win over Arnett in the semi-final of last year's playoffs. So it'll be interesting to see if the Junglers can get their revenge. Alright, time for the main attraction, which is of course Montego Bay at home in front of their home fans, taking on the runaway league leaders, Mount Pleasant. While you cannot say Montego Bay were at any point were in danger against Tivoli Gardens in the quarterfinals, I could also say they didn't exactly look like they were at their stellar best. And then of course, against this quality team like Mount Pleasant, they will simply need to be. We got a glimpse of how they can be, where they have their tails up and their touch and passing is smooth on the ball against Tivoli in that second leg in the first half. But they still need work, of course, in the execution in the final third. I'm also curious to know how Paul Davis was going to approach this game. In his previous 2 matches against Mount Pleasant, he was more focused on denying them space on the wings and forcing them to cross from deep into the box, knowing that his center backs had the edge in the air. In the game at Catching All especially, it worked to a charm, as Mount Pleasant for the majority of that game was simply cut frustrated. But we also saw in the return match at Drax All, if you allow Mount Pleasant with all the possession to come at you, you do so at your own peril. For Tapper, I don't expect him to change what has been working for the entire amount of the season, and expect him to look to dominate possession to try get his attackers close enough to have a crack at goal. Plus, they have a secret weapon just in case Montego Bay tried the same tactics and force him to cross into the box from deep, and that's because they finally have their plan B ready. Siobhan Walsh is now fit, and with him, they finally have a target striker that can come into the box and cause some damage, which I honestly believe was the last weakness they had. The only worry I have for this Mount Pleasant side though is that unlike Arnett Gardens, who desperately would have needed that 1-week break, Mount Pleasant on the other hand might actually be out of rhythm. With their large and quality squad, they rotated often throughout the season, so I don't expect many of their players to be too tired. And probably they would have preferred to be playing instead of taking the extra days off. But I honestly can't wait to see the outcome of this match. Alright, let's now look to the players to watch out for. I'm going to start with Montego Bay again, and the first player I'm going to look at is the left back Aspidales. He did a great job against the wingers of Tivoli, but maybe because he was so rigid in his defensive duties, we did not see him come forward like he usually does and playing some good squares into the box. And of course, when Mount Pleasant have some of the most quality wingers in the league, he may be stuck at home for the majority of the game. In fact, for that reason alone, he may not even get the start this time, as Malachi Sterling could also step in. Alright, the other player I want to look at is actually former Mount Pleasant midfielder Demara Phillips. He played more of the 6th role in the 2 matches against Tivoli Gardens, as he were more the one that would control the tempo and start the plays from out deep. But with I expecting Mount Pleasant to have more of the ball this time around, and Montego Bay sitting back to try to soak the pressure, I'm even wondering if he will actually get the nod to start this time, or Tiga Davis actually just for former Mount Pleasant player Leonardo Rankin to sit beside Limba for the extra protection. So this is an area we definitely have to look out for. Alright, the last Montego Bay player I want to highlight is Jordan Fletcher. We saw how pivotal he is against Cavalier in terms of stretching the field, and if Montego Bay find himself in any defensive pressure, he's a massive help in releasing that pressure. And while he may have one of the biggest misses I've seen in a long while, it's no question that he's pivotal to Montego Bay's attack, especially in a match like this one. Alright, now it's time to look on the key players for Mount Pleasant. I'm going to start in goal. Tapa Whitmore did the same thing he did last year by giving Shaquan Davis a break towards the end of the season. And while Chambers did stellar in keeping place for him, there's no question that Davis is the undisputed #1. But they do say goalkeepers are at their best when they keep playing and have that rhythm, so it'll be interesting to see what state of mind he is in for this match. The other player I want to highlight is Joshan Anglin, of course. Next to Lima is one of the best midfielders of the season, and in a game like this where he expects to have majority of the ball, we will get an even better look on how he handles himself going forward. Alright, and the last key player, of course, I mentioned him a couple times before, and that's Siobhan Walsh. I'm not sure if Tapa will actually spring for him to start, but I guarantee you he will play some minutes over these two legs. He may be the deciding factor in Mount Pleasant finally breaking down Montego Bay's defense. Look for him, especially in the aerial duels. Alright, before I wrap up, let's look at the season record between these two teams. And Mount Pleasant, based on the record, is sitting pretty. They have won 2 of the last 3 games against their opponents, including a fairly easy one at Drax Hall only a month ago when they won 2-0. So all the pressure will really be on Montego Bay United. But anyway guys, that is my preview for the Leg 1 semi-finals. Please let me know in the comment section below what do you think going to happen on Thursday night. Otherwise, please like, subscribe and share as we look to keep you all up to date leading up to the final on May 23rd. And for great JPL content, you're already at the right place, JPL fan. You too, big up yourself.